Hi everyone, my name is Manny and I am here with ESTNN, joined by the great Raz, commentator, LPL enthusiast,
Hell yeah.
amateur coach last year. You've been doing it all. How are you doing?
Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's been great. I've definitely been through a transitionary period. It's kind of weird going through an interview and not being introduced as like an LPL caster because that's literally just been my career for a good while now. So like
Right.
it's been a wild ride so far and I've been enjoying it.
Yeah, so I kind of wanted to get started with that, right? Because I feel like people still know you as the LPL guy, right? Like
Hmm.
every time we saw any international events, it was probably like you and Frost Garen, like just the LPL gurus that telling us EDG, RNG, and IG, they're winning it all. Not always happen, but that's what we heard. So how's that been? How I know you transitioned first to academy. So how was that transition? Kind of like why did you decide to do that? What was the reasoning behind that?
Initially when I moved, because I remember like here's the thing, off season works in like insane ways. Like I never really can plan that far ahead. For me, like my entire approach for my career is that I usually like think a bit year by year, right?
Hmm.
See how the year goes, but my intent is usually like I get a feel of if I want to continue doing what I'm doing,
Right.
and if it makes a lot of sense. During the year, that year in which I left, I for sure saw myself staying in China and staying as a caster there.
Hmm.
But during that off season, like you know how negotiations go from my end. It didn't seem like it was very feasible for me to stay in China.
Yeah.
Like it didn't make much sense. Which I was a little concerned leaving. I think a lot of people like you can ask like Papa Smithy or LS even like when you make the transition out, you want to leave the place that you're previously at like in a good condition. Because like it's your child. Like you've been there, you want the product to succeed, and so that was something that I was really wanted from the LPL, and their casters right now are incredible. I remember when they were hiring, and I saw the list, I was like, okay, you guys are good.
Right.
like you know what? It was only like a shame that I couldn't get to work with these guys, but like it is what it is, right? And I
Right.
and I'm really proud of them. Like even seeing the viewership for the finals, I thought I was like chef's kiss. So from that point of view, I'm relieved. And then from the point of view of moving back into coaching, because before casting, I was, coach of Dignitas when we were in the LCS, coach of, I was assistant coach for Dignitas EU, head coach of Chiefs Esports. Like I've coached in the past, so like that was something that I have done, but like transitioning back was one thing,
Hmm.
and also, I was at that time in which I was coaching before, I was still relatively like new at it. Like,
Hmm.
there are coaches that have been doing it for so damn long. And so coming back into it, I felt like there was a lot that the scene had changed in because back then I was in a game house, like
Right, right. It's
uh,
completely different nowadays.
exactly. The structure is completely changed. So like that, it took a period of kind of getting used to it. But man, was the team that I was with really damn good. And I'm proud that a lot of those players have moved on to do great things. Like Olive is a great example of it.
Hmm.
Blaze Olive being on the main roster, I think he's deserving of it. I'm rooting for um, what's it called? Chime was who's still on the academy roster and like
Right.
having that huge run through proving grounds like showcases his strengths. I think their bottom lane has been a big reason for the success that they've had.
Hmm.
And I can go on and on and on about the players, right? Like Darshan making it to the finals in academy in proving grounds, and of course, like he's always been someone who I think is deserving in an LCS position. So I can say a world about all my players that I've worked with.
Hmm.
And I was really lucky to be working on that team with those guys. So, huge shout out for them. It did take, a split and to kind of get a good feel for it, but it was fun and a great development process for everyone involved.
Right. It's funny to say it because I feel like that's kind of like the running story with Golden Guardians. Like most
Yeah.
of the rosters, it's like the first split. Even in Academy, it seems to be happening. It's like the first split, everyone's kind of getting into the same page, and then I don't know. Like I just feel like the coaching staff. I don't know exactly how it works. If you want to kind
Mhm.
of like shine the light a little bit, but
Oh yeah.
it. I feel like if you can trust one coaching staff to just develop talent from their amateur teams or academy teams up, it's kind of Golden Guardians. You know, I mean, we've
I
seen it.
felt I was really the one reason why I was with Golden Guardians. Like, I think the primary reason was the coaching staff, actually, because
Hmm.
like I had a lot of faith in Arrow.
Yeah.
The ability that he has to like work with players and how he thought about the game is one thing. Now, I didn't get to work too in depth with him, like because he was mainly with the main team.
Right.
I would have like weekly, like not weekly, I mean like regular meetings,
Hmm.
really regular meetings with him on like what he would want. And I think his vision for Academy and how it fits into the main team has always been really consistent and been great. Like the I think the horror story, and you see this with a few teams, is like that the Academy team is so different from the main team. So that when the
Right.
Academy player moves up into the main team, it's like, well, it's a completely different team setup mentality. Like they like they're working on different concepts is a good example of it, right? You don't
Yeah.
want your academy team being more hectic, more crazy, and like not have consistent concepts that they're working on that's on the same that is like different basically than the main team. You want the main team and the academy team to be working on the same things. And even though obviously they're going to be at different levels naturally, like
Yeah.
academy very naturally will have younger players that you have to like teach from the ground up. And that's true. But you still want the same concepts that are being thrown from the main team, like talked about and worked on in the academy team. And that's one thing that two-way player coaches I think are were something that they do really well at.
Right.
Like Samuel Broadley, who I worked with at the time, and now they have on top of that Brandon, I know him as, but Swiper is like that they brought in as well. So now they have
Hmm.
two-way player coaches, people who are working individually with the players on the main team, but are when they 1 week can come into the academy team, can work with the academy team, not just individually, but also just like here's a concept that we were working on with the main team that you probably didn't have like full eyes on. And this is what it is. This is how we work on it, etc. So it's one of those things where you're just trying to just be on the same page and have the same information, which is, I think, a great thing.
Right. I mean,
Mhm.
I think again we've seen it. Maybe people didn't expect much from Golden Guardians this year, right? But the fact that they brought so many new faces, and one of them being Olive going up from Academy, he
Yep.
had some pretty good performances, especially like lock-in and stuff. And I think it shows. Sure, maybe they've stumbled, and I've spoken to Anero about that, and he's like, yeah, there's things I definitely want to fix and know what to fix,
Yeah.
right? But it still feels like everyone in Golden Guardians is like, yep, we know what this year is. It's probably like some rebuilding, but we know exactly what we need to do or what we want to do for summer. So I think it's definitely one of those teams that has always proven that
So there are a
at least
few
from the
teams.
outside.
So like now coming in as a caster perspective, like an
Hmm.
analyst, and like being able to like provide commentary on these teams. The one thing that I've done consistently when I was on the LPL is like, because there are a lot of teams like that. It's not as if like Golden Guardians is like the the only team that is a developmental squad, right?
Right.
You just challenge that. Like when on LPL, there are a few teams that are the same thing, and you're like, okay, well, let's see week to week to week. Are there different things are they improving on specific things, right? Even
Right.
if you don't have insight on the things that they are improving on, it should visibly show on game day. It's like, okay, well, they're consistently like the setup around Dragon has been consistent. Like their Rift Herald takes have been like getting better and better. Or like even just like how the jungle, even a core basic, the jungler is farming efficiently and the lanes are playing accordingly to that. It just comes down to you have to see progress.
Yeah.
It's only like a red flag if you feel like, man, this team has looked the same or super inconsistent throughout this like the year. And I think
Right.
that's the one thing outside looking in that I was concerned about is that it like the team um, would have like moments where they're like, oh, they look great. Like at the first lock-in tournament was amazing for them, right?
Yeah.
Like that's where a lot of people had like a lot of a lot of faith in the team, but inconsistencies can drag you. And that's what I think has basically been plaguing the team. So I have no insight of what's been happening this split, but for
Right.
sure, it draws concern. So I'm looking forward to what happens for summer split.
Yeah.
Um, I can understand like the reasoning that they put out, which is like people not playing the same way that they play on scrims and playing a little bit more scared. I've had those issues, with the teams that I've worked
Right.
with in this past. So like I can understand that being an issue, and I hope that they stamp that out.
Yeah, for sure. And so that was kind of like your last year.
Yeah.
the big thing is obviously you did this whole transition period in the middle of a pandemic. No big deal. Just completely changing your life around for that. And then this year, you kind of announced to the world that you were going back. You were kind of coming back to the LCS, and I
Yeah.
think originally when you had said that you were leaving the LPL, I might be mistaken, but you hadn't said that you were immediately going to go into coaching, and maybe some people were like, he's gonna cast here. Oh my god, we're gonna get a great analyst. And then you're like, no, I'm actually coaching, and people are like, okay. And then, oh, Papa Smith is leaving. Oh, we're gonna get a great catcher. No, no, no. Actually, I'm a general manager. Okay. I'm
Yeah.
obviously not dragging anyone from the talent team, but I think
Mhm.
a lot of people had seen changes, like for example, Frosk going from LPL to EU, like they thought it was gonna be similar. Now you did that. It took a little bit longer. I know, visa issues and stuff was probably really hectic and stuff. I don't know if you want to touch up on that,
Yeah, I can talk on it. Like, because when I said that off season can be really hectic, it's for a lot of reasons. Like for
right?
me, when like my off season was crazy because like there were I knew I have options. Like I know at the end of the day, like when I look at the options that I have, and if LPL doesn't look like it's like looking viable, because it's changed drastically from me thinking, hey, I'm gonna stay here versus like, okay, well after I see what's available for me in LPL, and it doesn't look like a lot of things are like we're not seeing eye to eye on the product,
Right.
then I'm like, okay, what else is available to me? And
Hmm.
now I'm always a very safe person, so I'm okay. If it's like okay, if there's nothing that works for me, I'm fine going back home in Calgary, taking the split off, going back to uni,
Hmm.
and all these things. Because like for me, I'm completely fine just going back to the safety net, and I completely expected that. Um,
Okay.
so there were like I was looking at LCK, I was looking at LCS, and LCS was one. Yeah, they've reached out for a while. Like that was an offer that's been on the table. But yeah, as
Hmm.
you said, visa issues were the underlying issue. Was the
Hmm.
main was the main problem that I had. So then when I moved from coaching, I didn't think coaching once again as something temporary. I thought coaching for
Right.
me was like this is something that I'm feeling out, but after the first split, I was like I want to if
I'm
I'm doing
down for it.
something,
Yeah.
I want to settle in and just like work at it because I love
Hmm.
working with the players.
Right.
Um, and I think after the split, and then LCS comes back with another offer, that essentially that conversation happens once again, and that one was a hard one. I was kind of erring on the side of staying as a coach, and
Hmm.
not even though I was initially thinking about LCS, not going for that one. But like I had a multiple conversations with LCS with my GM, and it just didn't make sense for me to not take the opportunity
Right.
because I was super passionate about just being able to tell the stories and narratives of the players
Hmm.
that I see every day, and that's the one thing I really wanted to do is be able to control the narrative, like not control the narrative, but like have a
Yeah.
feel like I have a say.
And what is
Um,
being like said to?
what is being said.
Yeah.
Like I think that's something that I really wanted to because I didn't feel like that connected with me.
Right.
Hearing that from the broadcast and all that, I thought LCS broadcast is incredible. And I'm happy now that like I didn't have anything to do with it, but that amateur commentary and broadcast is great now. Like
Yeah.
hearing from the amateur commentators, but also like just knowing that that process from amateur to academy, and that there's feels like there's more passion around it.
Hmm.
So I think it's been naturally getting better without me. So
Right. Right. Which is
so
always like awesome, I guess,
yeah,
because
which is nice.
and I kind of want to touch on upon that before moving into the elephant in the room that starts in 1 week. You've been going through proving grounds and stuff. Obviously, again, I wouldn't say like, oh, you're obsessed with academy, but like,
Mhm.
it seems that you really do enjoy watching these academy players, these amateur players, right? I mean, players that we've seen or people have given up on, kind of like go on and. I had a friend in Noarg go on
Yeah,
and win value my man.
hell yeah.
um so what are your thoughts? How is proving grounds? Obviously we already know that there's changes, which I feel like were generally popular. Like there were
Yep.
positive changes. Everyone's like, yeah, Academy should be playing like 300 games, whatever, and then all these other teams they'll do the same, but kind of like more spaced out.
Yeah.
But kind of like what have you been seeing from the amateur side? What kind of like affected you like staying within that realm as well?
Yeah. So like when I came from the LPL, I was known as the like the LSPL slash LDL guy.
Hmm.
And the reason why I started with seeing, watching developmental leagues, at least specifically from the LPL, was because I feel like the best way to understand a region is to understand the competition underneath. You can't
Okay.
just watch the players at the top and be like, this is like North America or this is the LPL, right?
Right.
You need to see how competitive the region is, depth wise.
Hmm.
You need to see how hungry the players are underneath them. So when I'm seeing like, ballers that are in the mid lane and in the top lane, and you're saying, wait a minute, like this guy's struggling from like the LPL as a player. Well, that conversation's easy when you can say, hey, he better watch out.
Yeah,
they're
there's
they're gonna
three
they're
17
gonna,
year olds waiting 5 days from now are turning
but
18 and
it's not even just that too. Like young
yeah,
players, sure. I'm a big believer that youth isn't like a big issue,
right.
but skill and experience for sure. And so like
Hmm.
in the LDL, like you're running a lot of best of threes. You're running a lot of games, and a lot of these players have a wealth of experience in the developmental league in competitive games that they're running with coaches, and and it's like a secondary team now that they have academy teams in the
Right.
LDL, of course. So it's like they're getting all the same bits and information. They're insanely good as individual players. And so that's like where my value comes in,
Okay.
where I see that and I say, okay, like to be able to offer great commentary as a whole to your region, I think it's super important to know the
Right.
players coming up. And it was the same thing with, because when I was working in Europe with Dignitas Europe, we were what was that time? Basically, that version of Academy when we
Hmm.
promoted into the European LCS.
Was it
Um,
Challenger Series still? Like EU
yeah,
Challenger
Challenger
Series?
Series. You're right.
Yeah,
Challenger Series. God, the wording is something that
yeah.
Challenger
Yep.
Series. So with North America, when I was with Academy, I was passionate about that. I love the
Right.
fact that I got the job for Academy because I wanted to like work with
Build these
players.
players.
Yeah, and so you can see that. So that, I think one thing to make note of is that there are a lot of great um, amateur players, academy players, and most importantly, staffs and infrastructure and people who are managers that are there.
Hmm.
That when I came to North America, that there are instantly experts there that I can talk to.
Right.
Um, so I don't want to be like that guy that comes in and is like, oh, I'm the one,
I knew
end all be all
everything.
information. Exactly,
Yeah,
absolutely not.
yeah.
And so there are a lot of better people who are, who could definitely say more to the players that are on the rise, up and coming on
Right.
the rise. But for me, that's something that I want to get better at and know more
Okay.
about and watch more. Because I watched Academy, I watched all the Proving Grounds, I watched a lot of amateur tournaments,
Yeah.
and I want to continue to do that. So
Yeah.
that's something that hopefully I can bring on to an LCS broadcast coming up.
Of course. And I love that because I think, with other journalist friends and peers and stuff, one of the discussions is that that's what we see in the LCK. Well, that's what we
Hmm.
see in the LPL. Kind of like what you were mentioning. It's like people knew of this Griffin team that no one had heard of, and they're like, "Oh,
Hmm.
Griffin! You need to watch Griffin." And for the
Yeah.
casual fan, they're like, "Who's Griffin?" They just came up, and then Griffin's like, everyone loves Griffin. And or individual players like
Yeah.
Jackie Love, right? Like Jackie Love is one of the stories of like, yeah, people want to poach Jackie Love. He hasn't even turned, he's not old enough to play professionally, and
Yeah.
all these teams are fighting for him. It maybe not to that extent, but I do think we love to see that in NA because it shows that yeah, the talent is there.
Mhm.
There is talent. And I kind of agree with you. Talent is not just the perks, the the Bjergs and the other top
Yeah.
players. It's like what's underneath too.
And that's the thing. I think it's super easy to see talent when they're kind of already in a team that's super successful, and that's why obviously when Damwon and Griffin made it, like they did it forcibly in a system that allowed them to move up.
Yeah.
Um, but even like looking in North America, Cloud9 Academy when they won their split, and were champions, everyone would, champion all of the players because not only did they have good players, but it's very easy to see that, and you can't argue against that because like they worked well within a team and they won the championship because of it. I think seeing the individuals is usually pretty hard.
Right.
Like let's just say if there's a standout star, but the team is pretty bad.
Right, right.
That's something that I think I want to be able to kind of still tell a story about, and I still want to be able to champion players on either an side content or anything that when it does get brought up, it gets brought up, and I can provide that.
Yeah.
That's a goal that I want to have because I know that's always going to be something that isn't going to necessarily going to be represented on a broadcast, but especially for the fans that don't watch it, when the viewership is obviously going to be very low in an amateur tournament,
Right.
or even let's say proving grounds for the large scope of things. Yeah, I want to be able to tell that player story.
Yeah. No, I love that. So, well, moving on a little bit, we'll touch
Yeah.
up on this small tournament. Not many
Oh yeah.
people,
Mhm.
not no one cares about it. I think it's MS Island, Iceland or
Samus
something.
Iceland.
I don't know, like some catchy name like that. So I did get the chance to speak to Azael,
Mhm.
and we touched upon, yeah, Cloud9's kind of like expectations and stuff. I want to ask you, what are your expectations of Cloud9? Are we saying they definitely obviously have to, advance to the Rumble stage, I think is the name of it, or like do we
Yeah.
expect them to get to knockouts, or kind of like what are your expectations after, having seen them obviously, especially play after playoffs and such?
Yeah, I mean, I'm high on Cloud9, but I think MSI is usually a very limiting tournament.
Okay.
Reasoning for that is because like you're only going to get one team per region, right?
Right.
So if you're only getting one team per region, it really is just a question of like, well, are you better than all these play-in regions? Like I for me, I was thinking about it and I had the conversation earlier. I was like, it felt like their their floor is fourth place and their ceiling is third or like third.
Okay.
It's kind of wild because unless really is the question is like kind of be about them versus Mad Lions,
Okay.
um, or if if you were to go further, like if they can upset like an RNG,
RNG, or can Perks do it again?
yeah,
Really? Can
that one seems unrealistic. I'm coming into this as the most boring human being alive because I'm putting out the Dom one prediction. Like I just think
Okay.
even with Dom one
Spicy.
looking weaker, even with Dom one looking weaker, Nuggery versus Khan, uh, it was the big one. Like even with the weaker look from them, they just have such strong laners, mid, bot lane, and Canyon is a great junk. Like is probably one of the world's best junglers out there.
Yeah.
So you just have amazing players across the board, and so yeah, it
Right.
is mostly come down to like, well, Cloud9, if we have faith in the individual laners in like mostly their bot lane and their jungle, um, I think that RNG's huge strength is through their bot lane and their jungle. So like,
Yeah, I mean, look, I
I
was
don't.
able to, I can't, I'm not able to put the time
Mm,
to watch every single series in a playoffs. I do my best, especially going into international tournaments. But watching
yeah,
that best of five against FPX,
yeah.
Gallo's kind of nasty. I'm gonna.
Gala. So here's the thing. Gala's a great team fighter. I do think like he wasn't the best AD carry going into this tournament. Like, or at
Right.
least like from the LPL, Viper was insane.
I was gonna
LWX
say,
was
yeah.
insane. Like Gala for me was he is a great team fighter, and
Hmm.
that's where I think a lot of the RNG players can come into that. But I think their standout players are for sure Ming. I think Ming right now is
Yeah.
if I'm just scraping my mind, I think he's the best support right now in the world. Like
Hmm.
Ming is exceptional. Wei I thought was performing really well. I remember before watching a lot of the games, I was surprised that they moved away from Xiaolong Pao because he was like, upcoming jungler.
Right.
Um, he was an upcoming jungler that I thought had a lot of promise, but Wei was as well, and Wei just actually just can blow people out of the water. So support jungle, very good for RNG, and I think that one just outweighs a lot of things. I would have RNG as second best.
Right.
So there we go.
That's it. That's the top two. The classic.
If you were to ask me before between like Mad Lions and C9, I would need to watch. I've watched the Mad Lion games live, but I want to watch a little closer.
Hmm.
At the moment, I would give it to Cloud9 mostly because of Sven, Perks, Vulcan. I think are just and I haven't even mentioned Blabber, of course, but I just think that they have really core experienced players,
Right.
and I think experience matters a lot for me. So I just picked them.
Yeah, I mean they do have the last remaining G2 member, so maybe we'll
There we go. You can bring
sleep
that
range
pride
it.
with them.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, you obviously you kind of gave us already your top four. It's every
Yep.
major region. No surprises there.
There we go.
I'll hit you with a quick one. Who's the world's best Rumble jungle? Because I've heard that that's all we're gonna see, or maybe we don't see it at all because it's gonna be permaban.
Rumble's pretty damn good. Diana's looking pretty sick as a jungler as well. Damn, I don't know. I'm really that's the one thing I want to dig into by just looking at a
Just
lot of the
who plays
solo queue
who,
bots.
and
Who's
yeah,
playing it? Who do I like the most on it? I think Rumble Jungle is pretty straightforward. So
yeah,
it's mostly like what's the best team fighting team and how can you support it in like basically having CC around it. Because if you're
right,
just running a lot of these AP junglers that don't have that internally, like having that really needs a setup, then you're probably gonna have more CC in your AD carry. So that
yeah,
might mean like
like Jhin,
Jin, Varus,
Ash,
Varish, exactly.
yeah.
So I'm interested to seeing what the meta looks like. First stage for sure is going to be a banger.
Yeah, no, I'm very excited. I mean, we got the spicy take. Damwon takes it all. I guess the other one I'll ask
Yep.
is, do you think it's likely that we see Damwon run the Golden Mile? Win all four major titles? Do you think it's just way too early, or because no one has done it, right? We've seen RNG be
Yeah.
close. We've seen, I mean, G2 was
I
the
don't
other
think they
one.
will. I don't think they will. I actually have a lot of faith in drum roll LPL. I think LPL
Okay.
has, and the reason for that is like even though it sounds like I'm pretty low on RNG because of some lane some of the laners I think like individually aren't as strong as like the Damwon players. And I
Hmm.
also thought that they showed that they weren't as strong as the EDG.
Right.
I thought Scout and I thought Viper were insane, but I thought they obviously played really poorly at
That
in the
series, or
semifinals.
yeah.
And I thought that FPX obviously didn't play well on the day. But like there's
LWX had his monitor maybe off, we're
yep,
not sure.
and it's crazy. That's why context matters a lot because LWX for sure was a much better AD carry. Then not only did he showed that in that series, but I thought he was second best in the LPL as an AD carry.
Yeah,
That split. So like it just comes down to performing on the day, and at the end, and you get more competition. That's what I was talking earlier.
right.
Like you are now sending 3, maybe 4 teams. I don't know what worlds would look like. To an international event, and they all have a chance to prove themselves. And I said Damwon having a weakness, I think, in their top lane and Khan, and having just slower games. They're not as fast paced as they were in the past. So
Yeah.
I think that's a whole. I don't think that I would cast doubt on the full run. I don't think they make the full
Yeah.
run.
It's one of to me. It's one of those I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
Type of thing. Because again, RNG was like, oh, they're gonna do it. They got knocked out by like G2.
Yeah.
Oh, G2 are gonna do it. They got 3-0'd by
If
FPX.
I'm pointing at end of year, and if we're looking back at this, EDG or FPX are doing it, and I'm not gonna 100 solidify on one team. I'm
Right.
saying EDG or FPX for sure.
That's your good old
We'll make that
50-50.
run. Yeah, there
But
we go.
all right. Well, do you have anything else to say to the fans out there? That may be listening to this. Anything you want to say to them? Anything at all?
I want to say thank you for all the love because I've been getting a wealth of it. I know this year was pretty hard actually, not only because of the transition and of COVID and of the visas. Like
Yeah.
I just got double elbow dropped, triple elbow dropped. And so it was definitely not a strong mental health year for me. um, and I know it wasn't a good mental health year for a lot of people because of COVID. So
Yeah.
want to send love to everyone who's watching this video. If you're watching it, appreciate yourself. That's 1,000% the truth. You deserve it. And also thank you for sending me all love and appreciation. I think we need more of that out there. So keep sending it out. For the players that are going to MSI, send that love and appreciaciones.
Perfect. Thank you so much.